Hey you guys, Mickey here. I hope you're doing well. It is time for a post-freeze update. It has been a couple weeks, and so now the damage has really revealed itself. Citrus is real slow to show it. Avocado's a little faster, but it was worth the wait. So the chickens are out, end of the day. I've also got a project right here. I got some construction waste. I had the guy load it, but we'll see if I can get it out. It's over 900 pounds. Culvert. So anyway, here we've got the tree. This is a Shamuti sweet orange that went through the first day of freeze and then got covered at night, and it looked like the leaves were really discolored and damaged and just barely hung on. So this guy looks pretty good, and on the whole things look really good. In fact, I'm just so grateful for everything that's left. So right over here, this guy just had a burlap on top and leaves around the base, and only got a little bit of tip damage. So this was probably some good feedback for just the burlap, the thickness of the material. Even though it was fully wet, it got soaked. So it still had some insulative capacity. So this guy, this is a Changshu kumquat. He got wrapped with sheets and then plastic, and he took some tip damage. And I think across the board, what I'm probably going to repeat, or what I'm starting to see, is the plastic, kind of backfiring and not being as valuable. So this is a Satsuma that had plastic over the top and looks good, but Satsumas are tough like that. The peaches are full of bloom still, so a few got frozen, but this guy's coming out, so as long as we don't get much else. So here, this was plastic, actually tarp, not plastic, and it looks good. That's a Ponkoa. This guy was buried in leaves. The ones that were buried do look pretty good, so decent feedback there. This was totally unprotected, new growth, sucker growth on kumquat. And there's a little bit of tip damage up at the top of that large kumquat. So there was some damage. And we'll just go through this way. So I'm doing the, slow cleanup and getting things all set. So back here, this guy really didn't get any protection other than the heater. So this is a seedling avocado, and it was a seedling of Wilma, which is already not as hardy as some of the others. It froze to the ground last year and did all this. So what you can see is it looks like some leaves might stay, and there's definitely some bark damage, but I don't know the severity. The closer to the ground leaves are a little bit better. So I'm just really hoping that the trunk has enough integrity, the bark does, that it can maintain that height and regrow from out here, but that's still yet to be seen, because this is pretty severe damage as far as the avocados go. I need to remember to talk louder. All right, so straight ahead here is a blood orange that had plastic over the top, and it is just fine, which is pretty cool. This is the guy that I feel like I really rescued. I wrapped him in frost cloth and had the heaters going underneath it, and he has near zero damage. He had a little bit, leaves on the edge that have the little frost spots, but he was rock solid, and he did not get protected until he had already been down at around like 24 for about 6 hours. So wet and cold. So this one had been pre-damaged from the earlier freeze, not the large one, but a lower, one before that, where he just had heaters, so he was pre-damaged, and then I wrapped him in plastic, and he's even more damaged. So, the plastic, I vented it, but I think what the plastic really showed me, what I want to share, is that these temperature fluctuations are more damaging, even if that lowest point is not as low as it would have otherwise been. Like, the plastic did keep it warmer, because there was plastic, no heat source, but the temperature fluctuations, even with a vented plastic, is still going higher and then going lower again, because we had 2 nights of freeze. So that's what happened there. That guy survived, that little pomelo, He was, you know, tightly wrapped and everything. All right, everybody else is pretty good. So as far as the leaf pile on the passion fruit, it actually was bright green and healthy, and we got down to like forecast 34, and that's what knocked it. So like it got uncovered, it was bright green and good, had a great 2 or 3 buds like starting, and then the lightest of frost got it. This guy is kind of the same. There's green at the base, so they'll both be back. This was a control. So this Satsuma only had leaves piled up around the base, and you can see it's defoliating some, but all of its stems and trunks are good. So just that's how hardy Satsuma is, that it can make it through 19 degrees and wet and cold. And blueberries are starting to set their flowers, so I'll get a little fruit. That's kind of a rebuilding year. So I need to slow down. I'm going pretty fast. I want to make it short and sweet. So this sunburst was pre-damaged from the first freeze, and again I essentially tried to shift gears, but it had already been damaged. So in the first freeze it had a tarp over the top, and I think it got damaged from getting too hot and then too cold. And then what I did on this last one is I wrapped it tight because it had 3 waters at the base. So I wrapped it in the frost cloth and no heat source, but I also wrapped it in plastic, and I think it got too hot again. So it is dropping. I don't think it'll be damaged down all the way, but a good bit of damage on sunburst. We'll see if the base of this papaya is still good. Yet to be seen. So there's a big old orange right there. So this is Mars, and Mars came out a little worse for the wear. I really don't think that the piling up the leaves is always effective, or just that there's a huge difference. If the leaves have at least bit of moisture, it's a lot warmer than if they're just light and fluffy. Once the cold gets in there, it stays, and so that's something to think about. So Ujikitsu right here is really solid. It got wrapped in plastic, and yeah, just plastic. So it got protected, and it had leaves all around. I was going to protect the integrity at the base. This is fantastic, and this is the one that I think is the clearest feedback. This was a really strong tree that made it through last January's 20 with minor damage, and this is from getting too hot, where I didn't vent it up. I vented it out here and had a little flap open, and it was not near enough, and so this is that sort of temperature fluctuation. But fortunately you see a good bit of green, and actually it'll be okay that it'll get damaged back because it didn't have a very good structure. So now it's going to push hopefully one single shoot nice and high and come back strong. So hopefully. So there's one cool one in here. Excuse me. So this, hey lady, there's a seedling avocado right here, and it received no care, no protection, and it's actually better off than that first avocado we saw that had a heater and had a wrap the second night. And so this is my I don't know, just sustainable design, you know, planting an avocado inside of a live oak and then managing the sunlight. And so even though it might have lost its tip up near the top, it's got a good strong leader. It actually had another branch there that kind of eventually bent, so it's figuring things out, but in the next couple of years it is going to jump really high. All right, well, let's go this way. Ooh. So I uncovered that banana, and it was happy as can be, ready to just push that leaf right out. Some of the others took some damage. Now this grapefruit was a little disappointing. This grapefruit, it got covered really late Tuesday night, so it had already been frozen a good bit, but it got plastic on top of it with heaters underneath, and it got hit pretty hard. So I don't see the same level of splitting that I did last January, and it's dropping its leaves much faster, which is a good sign. It means that more of the bark is alive, but it actually is just 2 years in a row, its feedback, it's wrong place, wrong plant, and so I'm actually hoping that I can have the strength to get this guy out of here and put it somewhere where it's more out of the wind and less exposed. So just not a valuable tree right here, because I'm not going to protect it in the long term. This was a temporary thing, and that maybe I failed it a little bit, but it was kind of testing the waters for feedback, and the feedback says this tree is not strong enough for the full sun exposure and for the full wind and chill. So we'll try something else. It might just be an awesome raised bed full of vegetables now. Over here at the broccoli, they took a little bit of damage right on the top and on the edges of the leaves, but surprisingly they made it through, and these were uncovered for that 19. So this is pretty impressive. I've just been cutting them and taking them to the chickens little by little. And the kohlrabi too, it looked like it was going to lose all its leaves, and it just bounced right back. So just letting them get a little bigger. They're having fun. They're just having fun. Anyway, this way. So over on this side, I have a satsuma. This satsuma took no damage, and it was tarped in plastic for the coldest night. And it even had a heater running, actually. I was so worried. Here is a guava, a little, I think it's a pink guava, but it's actually got leaves. Now this is right above water that was freezing, and it was wrapped with not just a tarp, but also fabric. So it had like a cloth and then a plastic. And then here is the white sapote. Dun, dun, dun. So it dropped its leaves really fast, which is a great sign. And it actually, you can see here, it's already coming back out down here at the base. Lots of big buds about to sprout. But it's pretty disappointing. So this is the damage I was talking about from last January, this massive scar, and it was such a beautifully structured tree with a nice thick trunk. So there is, you can see this is splitting of the bark, so this whole branch will be gone at least to here, and these outer ones, and the splitting will kind of continue. The plant has to figure it out, but I see good buds right here and right here, so it should be leafing out soon. And as long as we don't get another hard freeze, it'll be back at it. I didn't even take video of it, but there was actually flowers right before it got frozen down there. But my system is getting refined, and I definitely will rethink and rework how I approach the protection and do a little better next year. All right. So this guy, cocktail grapefruit, just fine with just a little plastic because of that mass of water right behind it. So a lot of thermal mass there. Although the white sapote, which was actually maybe outside, no, it was in. Anyway, it's pretty toasted. I still have some cleanup to do. Covered Suriname cherry is fine, a little discoloration. This one, it's kind of sad to see that back branch a little damaged, but this is Republic of Texas, and this is damaged. See those leaves falling? So it's definitely not gonna shrink. It's not damaged on its stems, just a little bit of leaf drop. This little orchid, ooh, it'll be tough to say. I thought it might have made it. I mean, it's got green. All right, ladies got their holes, and now they eat worms. Look at that. I was worried they didn't like worms at first. So this is Malpighia glabra. Unprotected is toasted at 19. This is Eugenia Emargina, no, I don't know, Cherry of the Rio Grande. One of the Eugenias. This guy's fine, which is awesome. Just had plastic. I let that avocado die. I'm glad it's gone. This is cool. See the little aloes right there? That's actually green in the center. That made it through 19 with nothing more than a burlap just tossed on top of it. You know, like haphazardly. That's pretty cool. Here's a little cherimoya. This was fully laid on its side and buried, and it's all rocking. So the star fruit, I got some leaves to move. It made it out really well. So I've got leaves still near the top. You can see the top there, and here is damaged, but this is so much more than last January. Last January, it froze all the way down and it was slow to come back. Now it's got leaves all the way through. So I'm glad it got protected. And right here behind me, the cherimoya still had a few leaves. So like here, this leaf is on, and there were a few in there. The chickens might have pulled them off, but it's definitely got good bark on the interior. This changshu is looking good, and even the top growth looks really good. And here's a Okitsu Satsuma that had leaf pile on the interior, and so you see it's going to defoliate on the exterior, but it doesn't look like it's going to lose those branches, and so it should be rocking this coming year. So these are some important ones, trees that really give the feedback. So this was the control. So here we have full defoliation, and at the rate it's defoliating, I think that the bark is going to be pretty good. So it should come out quickly, but this was unwrapped, everything, just buckets of water at the base through the 19th. So I sacrificed it to see what it would be like. And then here, this is the largest of the seedling avocados I have, and all it has was a little protection from heaters at the base, but no tarps or anything like that. And you see, it's just tip damage, so that's really exciting. And now the dog, so we'll get yelled at. Here we've got Kishu seedless, and looking good. It was buried. Even the tips got buried. That dog won't let me make a good video. Hey ladies. Alright, so here's the lemon tree that was pulled over on top of the tank, and it kept its top. That was the part that was just over the water, and it kept its interior pretty well. It's obviously defoliated a good bit, but it's almost done dropping what it's going to drop, and so it just had the heater and radiating heat with a tarp around. Then over here we've got a Bloom Sweet grapefruit that at the very last minute I came in and tarped it, so it had a heater and a tarp, and that definitely did a lot of protecting. I just feel like it would have been a lot like last year otherwise. Last year it got a lot of damage down low. And then last but not least, this little star fruit, this whole branch was buried under all of that, and so it was fine. All of the stuff up top is dead and twiggy, and I haven't taken this off, but I'm nearly certain that it's also dead and twiggy, so it'll kind of come back from the base. And I think, oh, here's one little pixie mandarin, and it looks fine. It was a really smaller space, enclosed and everything. So, hey there, you want in the video? Well, this is Tindora, and Tindora's got one cheek that's puffy. Anyway, all right, you guys, I hope you appreciate the update, and hope you got something out of it. I'm really grateful for everything that did survive. I think if I was given what I've learned advice, it was just that the plastic really has to be managed, and since I don't live on site, it's not something that is that valuable for me. It does make the heat source use more valuable. Like the heat source really was ineffective without having something to slow the airflow even more or keep the heat in even more. So so that was a big one. And then covering things, I think I'm gonna not be so afraid of like using wet material or like already decomposing material. I think that the heat is definitely more important than worrying about any sort of rot on the stem. That plants are, it takes longer than I thought to damage them. Just uncovering things that had been uncovered for like 3 weeks, and seeing that they were happy and fine. And so I'll look for stuff that's a little wetter if I'm going to use leaves to mound up. And so my plan is, I've already invested in it. I'm going to get a bunch of frost cloth, and I'm going to run the heaters with just frost cloth over, unless it's you know, really advective with a lot of freezing rain or something. Then I might bust out the plastic. But for the most part, that's how I'm shifting my system. All right, anyway, that's a long ramble, and I'll catch y'all next time. Peace.